Welcome to Module 2, where to look for stuff, where to go to find articles. That's what we're talking about now. So learning objectives here to identify some key databases for education. I'm going to quickly describe the peer review process and some quick tips for identifying like a research article versus like something else. So I think this is like what most people think, like if you were tasked, say for example, like you got to write a whole literature review, project, pick a topic, find some stuff, write, edit, do, done. It's much more iterative sometimes and a little bit messier than that. So just kind of keep that in mind as you go through all of your searches and kind of related projects in education, is that sometimes searching can be a bit iterative. So what I mean by this is, so say, I don't know, you have an example topic, like is programming effective for improving physical health and well-being? This is like really broad. What programming? Physical health and well-being of who? Are you talking about students? Admin? Teachers? Is there a setting that matters here? Like, are we in the classroom? There's there's not enough detail in this topic at this point. And sometimes you might not be like super familiar with your topic when you start because you're learning. You're learning about the topic sometimes when you're also like searching for them. So sometimes you have to do this thing called background reading. So yes, you have your class notes and like some of your textbooks and stuff that you might already have. You might need to go back to those and read a little bit to be able to like define your topic a little bit better. Then sometimes just like some other books are really useful, or like encyclopedia articles. If you just want that kind of background, like what is kind of questions, books can be really, really good for that. But as you read more and you know more, your questions are going to kind of change. So they'll switch from like what I call like background-y questions to like foreground questions. And this is pulling from stuff from medicine, but I think it also implies in this context is as you know more, like you've been taking classes and doing your readings, you're understanding these topics more, your questions will become more granular and detailed. And that turns into foreground questions. And that's when we start looking at the article level. Sometimes review articles, you can read those for backgroundy kind of reading, but sometimes they fit really well with the foreground, more focused questions. That's where we're in the peer review literature. And if we were to think about it like a pyramid, like, the book chapters are a lot of the time like based on a lot of like research and also like expertise. There's less books, like there's tons and tons and tons of research articles. If it was like the pyramid structure, books, there's less of them, easier to find, easier to read, way more journal articles, sometimes harder to read, and sometimes harder to find. But that's what we're going to talk about in this series here. We're going to focus on searching for primary research articles, review research articles, those peer review articles. So just as you do, I'm not a big online shopper. Anything online, someone posts something, all the beaches in Nova Scotia are closed. Is that real? And like, sometimes you just gotta like double check, it seems like something's a great deal. Like, my in-laws did fall for this. These chairs, Muskoka chairs are like on super sale. It wasn't real. It was fake. It was a scam. So you have to really evaluate what you see online. And you do need to evaluate as well what you're pulling up in terms of like literature. And, the distinction between like print journal articles and like a book was really obvious because like a book, we've all seen what books look like in physical format. We know what a book is. And a journal, like a print journal, looked significantly different, just like a magazine looks different than a book. But now that everything is thrown online, that physical distinction isn't there anymore. So you have to like look at it for a second to figure out what is the text you are reading online to make sure it is not a magazine piece, not an opinion piece, not a book chapter. You're actually looking at like a research article, for example. And, an example I love to draw on, this is something I fell for a second. I, new mom a few years ago, and you put them sometimes in these like sleep bag things. And I was like, oh my gosh, this one is way cheaper here. It's super cute. $40 instead of $70. Dolls. So, you have to look at the details about what it, how it's structured, what it's about to kind of figure out what it actually is. This is a sleep sack for dolls, which I didn't know was a thing. And that's a sleep sack for baby humans. So same sort of skills that you already are using on the regular. We're just going to apply that in the literature context. Okay, so here is a screenshot from a record. This is from database Eric, and my first cue is that this is a research article. It is tagged by the database as being a scholarly journal, and it's published. This article is published by a journal called Journal of School Counseling. So that's already kind of a cue here that this is not a magazine piece, not a book chapter. It's published by a journal. Research articles are published by journals, so cue. The database is tagged as a research article, another cue. It has an abstract. We expect to see abstracts when we're looking at research articles. That's another hint. And then you can look up more information, like who is this by? Do they have a PhD? Are they affiliated with some sort of academic institution? Like who are these authors? So at this point, I'm just going to hop over. So this is Eric at Big Education Database, and here's that same research article here. And if I were just to like scroll down, you can get a ton more information down here. Here's our authors, you know, some email addresses here, the publisher's email address, more information about the journal is available there. And then another good one to check out is the peer review status. So I'll talk about more peer reviews coming up, but just want to let you know that as you scroll down, you can get more information like what is this journal? Does that look like a magazine? Do I want to look that up? That's the publisher's emails, not the author's emails, but if you were to click on the authors, you could see like, they publish a lot, get some more information about them that way. So some things to think about. Am I looking at an opinion piece, a magazine article, or am I looking at a research article? Is it structured? Once you click into it, is there a methods section? So if I were to click the get full text here, we'll talk later about troubleshooting full text, but I'm always after this thing called a PDF. Like, look at how it's structured. Is there methods here? Or is it like kind of easy to read? Is it talking about like just in my experience? Is it an opinion piece or is it like studying something? Is it written by a scholar? Like who are those authors? What degrees do they have? You can also just Google authors just to like see who they are. A big cue is how it's written. Is it formal language and like kind of hard to read, or is it like really easy to consume? Plain language. Does it contain like a lot of opinion and personal experience, or is it like studying something? And if you're not sure, it's not called Journal of something. It's just called Education in the Classroom. You're like, I don't know if this is a magazine or what. Like, Google it, look it up, click on the About section. Click on like scope and aims if it's like we put out research articles, journal articles. If it's just, seems like a magazine, it would be kind of like more flashy. It's not gonna like say like, for authors submit type of submission to peer review process. That's the kind of things you'll see in a journal article. You won't necessarily see that on a magazine article. So these are some questions you can ask yourself. So peer review, I've said this thing a ton of times. This is kind of what it means quickly. So basically, research teams or an author will submit their research project. They have been working on it. They love it. Hate some at that point. But they've been working really, really hard on this thing. They think it's ready to disseminate. They send it to a journal. Like, please, journal, publish this research. It will be looked at by the editors, and the journal will decide, like, is it kind of in the scope of what they publish or not? And if yes, it fits their requirements, then they'll send it to reviewers. Usually, it is peers. So sometimes it might be from the methods, usually also like subject topic expertise. And usually this process is blinded, which means the people reviewing it don't know who submitted it, and who submitted it don't know who their peer reviewers are. Usually there's 3. And, it does vary. And there's like open peer review now. There's lots of alternatives, different models of peer review, but this is the classic one. Blinded, 3 people. And they'll give the author feedback. And the feedback has the author has a chance to like revise and respond to the peer reviewers. And sometimes it's a back and forth. Sometimes it can take a long time, but eventually the peer reviewers, hopefully everyone comes to some sort of consensus. Everyone's cool with it, happy with it. It goes back and is published. And it's a way we check and ensure the quality of research. It's a way for like journals to like double check what they're putting out there. It's supposed to increase like the rigor, how things are written, how things are communicated, how it was studied before it's disseminated via like publication. So that's what peer review means. And it's something you will see when you're looking up journal articles, like, peer reviewed journal articles. How to check the peer review status. I just showed you that in Eric. Here's another screenshot of it. You can also just look up the source, like who published it, look them up, and if they use peer review, it should be there in the about information, in the information for author section. There should be some information about what the peer review process is. If it doesn't say anything about it, they might not use peer review. So like double check what you're reading there. Okay, where to search for articles. I like this metaphor here of comparing databases to streaming platforms, because like we don't have one streaming platform for everything. There, we have Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Crave. We don't have one for everything. Same thing with databases. I don't have a database that has everything for you. That's called the internet. So we search specific databases, just like you're gonna have to go certain streaming platforms for certain shows. I can relate a journal to being like a TV series, in that journals put out certain volumes and issues, just like TV series have multiple seasons, and within those seasons are episodes. Within certain volumes and issues of a journal, they put out articles. So maybe this resonates with you to try to like explain like what a database is. Works for some people. But the thing to know is, some big databases for you to be aware of. Eric, this is your main education resource database. This is where like basically all of your searches go to Eric. It's the biggest database for collecting journals that publish articles related to research. You do need to check the peer review status, and you need to check that it is like a journal article, because they publish lots of reports. Like you'll find reports in Eric, you'll find other things in Eric that are not research articles. So you need to double check that. PsycInfo is really good if you're looking for qualitative research, if you're looking for stuff on psychology or behavioral science. Web of Science, explain more what that is, but it's huge, multidisciplinary. And Indigenous Studies iPortal has a really great education section on it if you're looking for anything related to digital Indigenous studies resources. I just want to plug that resource because it's really awesome. I can search it or browse via that tool, and it's free. You can just Google it. Okay, so subject databases. These are databases that collect journals that publish articles by subject. What I mean by that, it'd be like, how Amazon Prime, you have your like reality TV channel, and like Paramount, you subscribe to certain channels within Prime. These would kind of be like those channels. Like Eric is the education database, PsycInfo, psychology, behavioral science, sociological abstracts. Medline is the main health database. Collect via subject, and they have more complex interfaces. If you do need to think about really comprehensive searches, these are where you need to be in. And usually, not all the time, they just have this citation. Like it's really common that you might not be able to get full text within the database in these ones. Multidisciplinary databases are huge. Web of Science is massive. It collects things not on subject, just tries to like collect regardless of subject, it takes things. So Web of Science is a really big multidisciplinary database. So if your topic is touching on like policy, politics, health, and education, Web of Science might be a good spot to go, because it's going to have like, it's not going to be confined by subject area. And basically all the journals in Web of Science are peer reviewed. And it's a little bit easier to search. Hard to control these ones though. So I'm just going to show you how to find the databases. So from the library website, this is how I do it. I go to like the database tab here, and I go to the browse. You can search, like you could search Eric. You can do that. And there it is, and you can click. I don't know, my process is browse, and Eric starts with E. I scroll down and I find it. Just in case spelling, capitals, plural, singular, I just find it's easier. When you click, if you are off campus, I'm off campus right now to demo this, you will need to log in. I've already logged in today, so it remembered, but you would log in with your StNavX ID and password. Same stuff you used to log into your email, your Moodle, all that. Search engines. I get this a lot. What about Google Scholar? It is an algorithm to search the internet for scholarly lit. So that's what it is. It's a search algorithm. Prose is, it's trying to search everything. You will have to pay really close attention when it's retrieving. It's going to be a pretty mixed bag of what comes in from a Google Scholar result. And another thing is it's an algorithm like based on all of your past searches. So me, you, everyone can go and do a search at the exact same time for the exact same words. And we're going to get different results because we've all been doing different Google searches for years. And it's really hard to get out of that bubble. So I find it's like when you're in school and you're learning new things, it's really hard to use Google Scholar to get it to work for that search because you're probably searching for something new. In school you're learning about new stuff and you're stuck in your old bubble. So that's why I just get to Eric. But if you're going to use Google Scholar, just be aware that you're in a bubble and it pushes up to the top things with a high citation count. So I'm just gonna, can't help it, I'm just gonna show you. Quick search, decolonization, education. So the things that tend to be on the first few pages, and like honestly, does anyone go past page 3? Maybe. Will have higher citation counts that cited by. This means these 25 people talked about this one in their papers. That's what that means. And the ones on our first few pages will have higher citation counts. Cool, that can mean seminal, can mean important, fine. But it also is usually a bit older to have amassed said citations. New stuff hasn't had a chance, hasn't existed long enough for a bunch of other people to read it and cite it in their research. So just be aware, your site bubble, and that you're seeing older stuff a little bit at the beginning, and then maybe just turn on the date range on the left, like since 2020, to see the newer stuff, if you're going to be using Google Scholar. Thank you. Questions? Just let me know. More to come.